Hi, we're Ariel.
And Michelle,
And
we're
we're
the
the
Board
Board
Game
Game
Tutors.
Tutors.
Today we're doing our Advanced Concepts video for the Second Summoner Jungle Elves faction, which is basically an army that you can add on to the original Summoner Wars board game.
And in this faction, you get all these cards, as we're going to discuss in just a few minutes. And also, as opposed to many of the add-on armies that you can add to Summoner Wars, they also come with these poisoned wound markers here that you can see directly beneath the cards. As you can see, if you compare them to regular wound markers, they look pretty much the same. They're green, obviously. They have a skull and crossbones. On regular wound markers, though, you flip them over, they become 3, because obviously sometimes you just have a lot of wounds on the table, so you need a few wound markers that count for 3. But poison wound markers, when you flip those over, they don't have a 3, they just have another skull and crossbones. So we're going to go over exactly what these do. They're essentially wound markers, but aside for a few special cases in which they are different from regular wound markers, and we'll describe those more in just a second.
All right, then here is the card that shows the starting setup for this deck, as with every faction.
So these are all the units that you need at the beginning of the game. Flip the card over. As you can see, here are all of Nikuya Na, that's the summoner for the second summoner Jungle Elves, all of his event cards. All of them say Spirit at the front of them. They're all basic event cards. And over here, as usual, is a turn phase summary for the deck.
All right, and here is one of the walls.
Nothing special there, 9 hit points as usual.
And then here's the rules card that explains how poison markers work. Some game effects add poison markers to units. Poison markers are considered to be wound markers and count towards a unit's total number of wounds. A unit with 1 or more poison markers on it is considered to be poisoned. When a player attacks with a poisoned unit, they must subtract 1 from the number on each of their die results for each poison marker on that unit. A poisoned unit cannot attack on a turn it moved 2 or more spaces.
So we'll go into more in-depth examples for exactly what this means. But if your opponent rolls against you and you have a poison marker on their card, for example, if they roll a 5, that unit, that is symbolized here by nothing, but if there was an enemy unit here and it tried to attack one of your units, if they rolled the die and they rolled a 5, that would effectively become a 4 for every poison marker that they have on them. So obviously, these are essentially wounds. So if the unit only has 1 wound capable, the unit would just die. But if the unit has 2 wounds possible that they can take before they die, or 3 wounds possible that they take, then this would basically be a wound marker. And every time they roll against your units, that would be 1 less for each of these poison markers on that card.
So if they had 2 poison markers, then the 5 would get reduced to a 3.
So this original 5 would become a 3. If they rolled a 3, then this 3 would become a 1. If I find it, there it is, a 1. So this can be helpful some of the time. If people roll a 4 and they have two poison markers on them, that can be basically 2 from that point on.
So then when it becomes a 2, they wouldn't get a hit on that die roll.
So it's one way to protect yourself against stronger common units and strong champion units from the other side. One important thing that you need to know about poison markers is poison markers are never ever placed on summoners and on conjurations or other cards like them that aren't champions or commons.
Yeah, so they only work on champions and commons. And so, like we just explained, it lowers the number on the die roll. It also interferes with movement. So a poisoned unit can move any number of spaces. Normally, it's just up to 2, like any other unit. If there's something that let it move farther, it could still move farther. But it wouldn't be able to attack if it moved more than 1 space. So they can only move, a poisoned unit can only move 1 space if it's going to attack on that same turn.
So we'll obviously, doing this abstract example of a fake card over here isn't very visually helpful. We'll explain more when we get to cards that actually put poison markers on other cards.
Okay. So here's actually our first example of that. The summoner, Nikuya Na. He has an attack value of 2, is a ranged fighter, and has 7 hit points. And his special ability is called Poison Cloud, so it pertains to poison markers. So I'm going to go ahead and read that. After moving Nikuya Na, you may spend any number of magic points to choose a common or champion unit within that many spaces of Nikuya Na. Place a poison marker on the chosen unit. So this is separate from any attack or anything like that. It happens after you move Nikuya Na. So you also have to move him in order for this to come into effect. And then you're going to spend magic in order to put a poison marker on a unit. So you're going to count the number of spaces away from the unit that Nikuya Na is. So let's say he's right next to it. Then he would be one space away. So then you would need to spend one magic in order to place a poison marker on that Rhino.
And you look at that and it says common, so you know it's a valid place to do it, person to do it to, because he, like it says, he can only do this to commons or champions. So he cannot do this to enemy summoners or other special cards like conjurations. So, but also, let's say this is the example. Let's say the Rhino, let's say Nikuya Na moved from here to here, and he wanted to attack that Rhino with Poison Cloud. Count how many spaces you need to go. 1, 2, 3. You have to spend 3 magic points to do directly 1 damage in poison to that Rhino. And so I'm choosing a unit, obviously, that has enough health points to actually matter. Obviously, if he only had 1 health point, hit point, then he would be dead at this point, because that's essentially a wound. 1 wound kills a unit that only has 1 health.
Right, so Poison Cloud could be used to destroy a unit if that unit only had 1 hit point left.
Also, another reason why you might do this in this particular example, it deals 1 definitive poison damage to that enemy unit, plus now Nikuya Na is within range to roll 2 dice against that same unit. So now that unit can hopefully die on this turn, because if you do 1 definitive damage plus another 2 possible damage, because he rolls 2 at range, then that unit would be dead, theoretically, depending upon the die rolls. So, and also, obviously, you can poison someone really far away if you really wanted to, but the magic is going to get really, really steep, really fast. So in this example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you don't really want to make it that expensive for yourself to do that. You want to go kind of close to use Poison Cloud. You can kind of afford that because he has 7 hit points. But, yeah. It's just not very wise. You're not limited by distance. You just have to have moved. So if he did not move this turn, that is an illegal move. He has to move at least once.
Yeah, before you use Poison Cloud.
So yeah, that was everything about that. So next we're going to do the Rhino.
So that was the summoner. So now here's the first common unit. So the Rhino has a summon cost of 3, an attack value of 2, is a melee fighter, and has 3 hit points. And its special ability is pretty simple. It's called Tough. When an opponent rolls to attack this rhinoceros only receives wound markers from die results of 4 or higher during that attack. So, like it says, he's tough. That makes sense for a rhino. He's basically harder to successfully injure than units normally are. So normally you just have to roll 3 or higher in order to cause damage. But in the case of the rhino, you have to roll 4 or higher.
So 3s are invalid. So if someone rolled 2 dice against the rhino, and this was the combination, the 3 doesn't count, the 4 does count. So this is a successful attack. This is an unsuccessful attack, because normally it would be successful, but it is not in this instance. This is a successful attack, thereby meriting 1 wound on the rhino. Okay.
All right, then the next common unit is the hunter. So he has a summon cost of 1, an attack value of 1, is a ranged fighter, and has 1 hit point. And his ability is called Poisoned Darts. So again, we're going to talk about poison markers here. When this hunter wounds a common or champion unit with an attack, instead of adding wound markers, add 1 poison marker for each wound. So, as it's called, the hunter has poison darts. So when he does damage, he doesn't do regular damage, he does poison damage.
So that didn't count, obviously. Let's just say he rolled a 3. That still doesn't count because of the rhino's special ability. Let's just say it was a 6. Okay, so he rolled a 6. He only rolls 1 die. I cheated and I rolled 3. Anyway, so that was a successful attack. He would receive 1 wound. Now, from this point on, whenever this rhino attacks anyone, whatever he rolls will go down in number by 1. So not that he will roll 1 die, but he will still continue to roll 2 dice, but the die results will always be 1 less than what they end up being.
Yeah, so if he rolled that 6 and 2, that would become a 5 and a 1.
Right. So that would be only 1 successful attack, a 5 and a 1. So basically, the more poison markers you pour on them, the more handicapped the person will be. Like we said, if this rhino moved more than 1 space, I believe that's right. Yeah. If it only moved 1 space, it can roll an attack with 2. However, if this rhino was here and moved 2 spaces, now that rhino is ineligible for attacking the round that it moved. So, obviously, you can imagine how devastating this would be on a really tough champion for your enemy. Let's say you were fighting against a champion that had 6 hit points possible. 1, 2, 3, 4. If he had 4 poison markers on him, that would essentially make almost all of his die rolls useless, because a 5 would go all the way down to a 1. Is that right, Michelle?
You subtract 4, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, the more poison markers you place upon a champion unit that has a lot of health points, the more crippling that will be to your enemy's team, because now they're essentially useless for causing damage to your side of the team, or your side of the board.
Yep.
So that can be one fairly effective method for neutralizing an enemy champion. However, you have to get several hunters out there to attack in order to pile on the poison markers in such a way for that to be effective.
Right.
So, yeah, that's the hunter for you.
Okay, then we have hyenas. They have a summon cost of 0, an attack value of 1, are melee fighters, and have 1 hit point. And they are opportunists. So their special ability is, when this hyena attacks a unit that has already been attacked on this turn, add 1 to this hyena's attack value during that attack. So really straightforward, you just have to remember and pay attention to this. The hyena actually rolls 2 dice if it's attacking a unit that was already attacked on this turn.
So, for example, in this example, as you can see here, Nikuya Na could have attacked the rhino for 2. Let's demonstrate that. Okay, so he got 1 successful attack, so that would be a wound on that. Now, this hyena normally rolls 1, but as long as someone attacked that same unit, it doesn't matter if it's ranged or if it's adjacent combat. Doesn't matter. So now this hyena gets to roll 2. Oops, sorry. That's actually a good roll. Okay, I got double 4s. So that rhino would actually be dead now because they all rolled 4s, ironically. And so the rhino would be dead.
So. And the rhino just needs to have been attacked on that turn. It doesn't have to have been wounded successfully. It just has to have been attacked.
Right. So even if Nikuya Na rolled 2 dice, completely missed, the hyena would still get to roll 1 extra die as a result of his opportunistic nature, which is rather thematic, I think, given it's a hyena, and yeah, hyenas aren't necessarily very nice. So, all right, let's go to the first champion.
Okay. This is Miti Cairo, or we're not sure exactly how to say its name, but anyway. There's a summon cost of 7 for this one, an attack value of 3. It's a melee fighter and has 6 hit points. So Miti Cairo's ability is, it's called Mount Up. After attacking with Miti Cairo, if he is adjacent to your summoner, you may spend 1 magic point to move Miti Cairo up to 2 spaces. After moving Miti Cairo in this way, place your summoner adjacent to Miti Cairo if able. So this is another rather thematic ability. It's as if Nikuya Na basically rides on the back of Miti Cairo, and that's why it's called Mount Up. So they would have to be adjacent to each other for this to work. We haven't had this happen very often.
Maybe once or twice. It's a pretty specific set of conditions for it to work. So in this example, let's say Miti Cairo, it says after attacking, so he rolls 3 dice. Only 1 was successful. That means that Rhino would get 1 wound right here. And then, let's fulfill the rest of what it says. You may spend a magic point, so let's pretend we spent a magic point, to move Miti Cairo up to 2 spaces. So let's say he goes 1, 2, and let's pretend these cards aren't here for this example. And after moving Miti Cairo in this way, place your summoner adjacent to Miti Cairo if able. So now, since he was next to Miti Cairo where he was, let's say Mitikairu attack that Rhino and Nikuya Na attack somebody else here. That's how you make maximum use of this mount up ability. Then Mitikairu would essentially, it doesn't look like he did that, given the actions that you're doing it in the order that you're doing it, but as long as you fulfill all those conditions, then Mitikairu moves 2. After paying 1 magic point, Nikuya Na can go anywhere adjacent to Mitikairu, so he could go all the way back here. So this is one way of attacking with your summoner, using Mitikairu to pull him back and not put him in harm's way, and also use Mitikairu as a defender at the same time. So, yeah, basically, you can imagine he rode on Mitikairu's back. He looks like a rather majestic creature to carry somebody on his back, but I guess he deigned to do that for his summoner.
All right, then we have the next champion, Juju Gaara.
Get this back in the center. There we go.
So Juju Gaara has a summon cost of 7, an attack value of 3, is a melee fighter, and has 7 hit points. And his ability is called Spirit Form. During your event phase, you may choose one of the following units on the battlefield: Hyena, Rhinoceros, Lioness, Elephant, Gorilla. Until the beginning of your next turn, Juju Gaara is treated as if he has the name and abilities of the chosen unit. So this can be really powerful. It requires that you have one of these units on the board in order for Juju Gaara to copy that unit. And this mentions several animals. Not all of them are in this deck because there is a first summoner for the Jungle Elves named Abuashi, and there are also reinforcements for Abuashi's deck, which both of those we've gone over in other videos. And so Juju Gaara could be put into Abuashi's deck, or some of these animals might be put into this deck. So that's why it mentions all those different animals as possibilities for this ability.
And so that's called deck building, where you take cards from another source and swap them for the cards that you currently have in the basic army of a particular army. We're not going to go over the rules for how deck building works, but that is a possibility if you wanted to do that. You can look up the exact rules on how to do deck building in the rule book. But yeah, we're not going to go over that in this video. So basically, the name, Rhinoceros, and the ability, Tough, in all this text. The Hyena, name, and the text, the ability, Opportunist. He can copy any of the, these are the only 2 that are in this deck. And this does not count for Mitikairu, because even though Mitikairu is an animal, it's not one of the names listed here.
Right.
So basically, he can copy their ability. He copies nothing else, otherwise he would get 3 hit points from the Rhino, and he has 7 normally, so you don't really want to do that. And especially for the 1 hit point for the Hyena, you don't want to copy that. So basically, essentially he gets their special ability and their name. So none of the stats transfer to Juju Gaara.
Right.
And so, yeah, he can be tough, and he can become an opportunist, which are both so desirable qualities to obtain from someone else.
So if he imitated a hyena, then he would be able to roll 4 dice against a unit that he was attacking, as long as it had already been attacked on that same turn.
And the Rhinoceros, he would just not get hit by 3s. So, pretty powerful, kind of freaky looking champion, but very strong and very expensive, and also, yeah, really tough to beat overall. That was Juju Gaara.
And then the last champion is Makan Go. He has a summon cost of 7, an attack value of 2, is a melee fighter, and has 6 hit points. His special ability also involves poison markers. It's called Poisoned Daggers. When an attack from Makan Go inflicts 1 or more wound markers on a common or champion unit, in addition to any wound markers dealt by the attack, add 1 poison marker to the card being attacked.
So obviously, this doesn't matter for units that have only 1 hit point. They'll just die if he gets 1 successful attack. So his special condition is he has to be successful. So if you rolled... there we go. If you rolled all of these... Sorry, he's only 2. If you rolled these 2 dice, that would be unsuccessful. His special ability would not engage at this particular point. However, if one of them was successful, and it has to be a 4, remember, if it's the Rhino, then that means 1 regular wound would be placed on him in this particular example, and 1 poison marker would also go on him as well. So that would be a 2 out of the 3 hits to that Rhino. So it always has the potential, as long as you roll 1 successfully, to be 2 minimum. whenever you roll with Makan Go.
So it basically kind of gives you a free damage as long as you're successful with your die roll.
And like we said, poison markers, they limit your opponent's movement in terms of they cannot move 2 spaces or more and attack that same turn. Or whenever they attack, if they've only moved 1 space this turn, they can only do damage 1 less than what they actually rolled.
Right.
So that's Makan Go. He's pretty straightforward overall. And yeah, so basically the 3 cards that are affected by poison markers, or that cause poison markers, are Nikuya Na's Poison Cloud, the Hunter's Poison Darts, and Makan Go's Poison Daggers. And as you can see here, all of the champions cost 7. Juju Gaara, Makan Go, and Cairo. So you gotta conserve your magic a lot if you want to summon more than one of your champions.
Right.
Because, yeah, it's going to be pretty difficult overall. And while his ability is pretty cool, because, yeah, it's a potential of 3 if he rolls 2 successful attacks.
Or 1.
Yeah, or 1. But basically, with Juju Gaara, you definitely get to roll 3. With Cairo, you definitely get to roll 3. So in our games, we've typically chosen to use them over Makan Go just because, if you don't roll well with either of the 2 dice that he rolls, then you get no damage. As opposed to rolling with 3 dice just feels like better odds in terms of getting at least 1 successful attack.
Right. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the event cards. First, we have Spirit of the Jungle. Search your discard pile for a Nikuya Na event card. Reveal this card, then place the card in your hand. So really straightforward. You can only check your discard pile for this one. So it's not your draw pile, it's not your magic pile, it's just your discard pile, which is over there.
So basically, after you've used your other event cards, not this one obviously, because you only have 1 copy of this in your deck, it's basically a redo card. Any card that you have used already in this game and that has gone straight to your discard pile, now you can use it again.
Right.
So even if you built one of your other event cards as magic, and then you use that magic to buy somebody else, now Spirit of the Jungle lets you recover that card and actually use it again, or use it for the first time if you used it for magic.
All right. Okay. And then it just requires that you reveal the card you found so that your opponent knows what you got before putting it in your hand.
And remember, this is not your draw pile, this is not your opponent's discard pile, this is not your magic, this is your discard. So that's all.
Okay, now we have Spirit of the Turtle. And like the other event cards that we're going to read, it says choose your summoner or a jungle elf unit within 2 spaces of your summoner. So all of these are going to apply to either your summoner or someone who's close to him during the event phase that you play this card. Right. And then it says, until the beginning of your next turn, the chosen unit gains the following ability. Turtle's Toughness. When an opponent rolls to attack this jungle elf unit, it only receives wound markers from die results of 5 or higher during that attack. So the event card that you played this on is going to be, the unit card that you played this on is going to be that much more difficult for your opponent to wound because they have to roll a 5 or a 6 in order to hurt it. It's like it has a turtle shell now.
And so basically, it's kind of weird to picture a rhino with a turtle shell and a hyena with a turtle shell. Anyway, that just gets strange if you think about that much. But basically, the main limitation about this is sometimes you get event cards where you have to pay to do the ability, which you're going to come across in just a minute. But for Spirit of the Turtle, basically the only condition is it has to be your summoner or any of his units. Doesn't matter if it's a common or a champion that is within 2 spaces of him. So this rhino is obviously within 2 spaces of him. It's obviously within 2 spaces of him. And units and walls that are in between them don't count. It's just within 2 spaces. So if the rhino was here and the Nikuya Na was here, then this rhino could grab the Spirit of the Turtle ability, then charge forward and attack, and now he's harder to kill. Same thing with Cairo, because it's not limited to just commons. This can happen to him as well, so he'll be harder to kill as well. So yeah, it's a pretty straightforward ability. You either choose your summoner or somebody he controls within 2 spaces, and obstacles don't count.
Yep.
So that's that.
All right. So then the next one is going to have the same thing, that you choose your summoner or a jungle elf unit within 2 spaces of him. and then until the end of the turn, that unit, the chosen unit, gains the following ability. So this one is called Spirit of the Cheetah. Cheetah's speed is the ability that it gives the unit. When moving this unit normally during your movement phase, you may move it up to 3 additional spaces. So really simple. You can move that unit up to 5 spaces.
Yeah, so normally 2, now 5.
Mm-hmm.
So basically you can use this, for example, on this Rhino, and then you can basically do a Rhino charge with it because he's a cheetah now. And I think he can run by himself anyway. But with this special card, special event card, now the Rhino can go 5 spaces onto the enemy side of the board.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty straightforward. Only restriction is you have to be the summoner or 2 spaces within the summoner. So you could even charge Nikuya Na onto the enemy side of the board if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
One time Michelle charged my side of the board when she was playing Nikuya Na's deck and freaked out my summoner and made him run to the other side of the board too. So it was basically tag.
Yeah, they changed sides. It's pretty cool.
So that is Spirit of the Cheetah.
Okay, then we have Spirit of the Serpent. It has the same text at the beginning that we've already gone over. And then Serpent's Strike is the ability that comes with this card. When attacking with this Jungle Elf unit, if it moved 2 or fewer spaces this turn, add 2 to its attack value. So this card is limited in terms of it can't be stacked with Spirit of the Cheetah. That's why it says if it moved 2 or fewer spaces this turn. So you can't use Spirit of the Serpent if you also use Spirit of the Cheetah. It would basically do nothing.
Yeah, basically, if you played this card, Spirit of the Serpent, with Spirit of the Cheetah on the same card, the same unit, Spirit of the Serpent is basically invalidated by Spirit of the Cheetah. So you have to pick or choose. These do not stack together. So basically, it would be way too powerful if you could get your Rhino to go 5 spaces and roll 2 extra dice. I believe that's what it says, right?
Yeah.
So if you just use Spirit of the Serpent alone, the Rhino would roll 2 dice normally, plus 2 more. And like we said, these are not limited in terms of you can only do these on commons, you can only do these on champions. It's for anybody. So this can apply to Nikuya Na as well. And so basically, a guy who rolls 3 can roll 5. A guy who rolls 2 can now roll 4, etc. Mm-hmm. And you have 2 Spirit of the Serpents in your deck. So if you played Spirit of the Serpent twice, you wouldn't roll 4, you would roll 6. Because 2 Spirit of the Serpent stack on each other. It's kind of difficult to decide to do that, but if you have an opportunity to go for your opponent's summoner, why not roll 6 dice against them? Because, yeah. Or, for example, another really, really interesting way to work would be if you had a hunter and you gave him Spirit of the Serpent, he would roll not 1, he would roll 3. And if you gave him another Spirit of the Serpent, he would roll 5. So now you could use this on an enemy champion that is really tough and has a lot of hit points and potentially give them a boatload of poison markers all at once. So that is something else that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
However, one more clarification point I wanted to say. So like we said, Spirit of the Serpent cannot be used with Spirit of the Cheetah, but Spirit of the Turtle can also be used with Spirit of the Serpent because they are not limited to space or any particular constraints in that way. So you can use both of those together, and I believe you can also use the next one together too, but we'll see for sure.
Okay, so that was Spirit of the Serpent. Then we have Spirit of the Lizard. So this one has different text at the beginning. Spend 4 magic points and choose your summoner, or spend 1 magic point and choose a Jungle Elf unit within 2 spaces of your summoner. So again, we see that within 2 spaces restriction. Until the end of this turn, the chosen unit gains the following ability. Lizard's Regeneration. Once per turn, instead of moving with this unit, or instead of attacking with this unit, you may remove up to 2 wound markers from this unit. So this card actually allows you to heal, and if you want to heal your summoner, it's going to cost 4 magic. If you want to heal anyone else, it's only going to cost 1 magic. And so this requires you to either give up movement or to give up an attack. So you can still move, or you can still attack. You just can't do both in the same turn that you're going to play Spirit of the Lizard on the unit that we're talking about.
So, for example, you could choose Nikuya Na, spend 4 magic points from your magic pile, and then this would not be 4. It would now be 2 because it restores 2, right, Michelle?
Yep, you may remove up to 2 wound markers.
Mm-hmm. And now you can choose with Nikuya Na. You can move him and not attack, or you can not move him and attack. So
right.
Basically, in order to restore that health, they either had to not move or they had to not attack.
Mm-hmm.
Or, let's say we didn't do that. Most likely you'll use this on Nikuya Na because who doesn't want to heal their summoner when they have the opportunity to do so. But let's say we're doing this to Minty Cairo, then you only spend 1 magic, which is a whole lot less magic than you would have to for your summoner, and he would heal twice, so he would not have 4, he would now have 2.
Mm-hmm.
And now, like we said, he could either not move and attack, or move and not attack.
Right.
So, obviously, you want to be careful with this Lizard's Regeneration card because, like we said, you have to choose movement or attack. You can only do one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So, basically, if you want to use his Poison Cloud ability, you definitely don't want to choose not moving this turn.
Right, because then you remember you have to move in order to do Poison Cloud.
So, even on a turn where you can't attack because you did Spirit of the Lizard to your summoner, and you said, okay, I am not attacking this turn, you could still do Poison Cloud because you moved that turn.
Right, that's not considered attacking in the technical sense.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe his Poison Cloud came out of his little fur thing on his backpack. I don't know. I'm not sure where the Poison Cloud comes from. But anyway, yeah. So
all right,
that was that.
So those were all the cards from the second Summoner Jungle Elves faction for Summoner Wars.
Mm-hmm. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave us a comment, send us an email. If you enjoyed this content and want to have more videos from us with similar content in the future, we will be doing regular updates to our YouTube channel, The Board Game Tutors. So please subscribe to our channel, give us likes on YouTube and or boardgamegeek.com. And yeah, we appreciate all of your positive feedback. It helps us to know that you enjoy our content and you want more. And we enjoy giving it to you.
All right, thanks so much for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next video. All
right, bye everybody.
Bye.